What if the people you trust the most are the ones you should fear? A crackling fireplace, a warm glow on smiling faces, the picture of familial bliss. But sometimes beneath the surface, beneath the carefully constructed facade of normalcy, lies something sinister, something waiting to break free. We're about to journey into the heart of 5 true stories, 5 Mother's Day nightmares where love turns to terror and the people closest to us become our greatest fear. These stories will take you to the edge of your seat, making you question the very essence of family bonds. Prepare yourself for a journey into the unknown, where every smile hides a secret and every hug could be your last. May 10th, 1987. A small town in Ohio shrouded in the kind of quiet that feels heavy, almost expectant. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, as if the town itself was holding its breath. This is where our first story takes root, in a 2-story Victorian house with peeling paint and a front porch that groans under the weight of forgotten memories. The house stood like a sentinel, guarding its secrets with a silent, watchful eye. It's the kind of place where secrets linger in the shadows, where every creaking floorboard whispers tales of the past. The walls seem to breathe, exhaling the ghosts of yesteryears. The Carter family lived here, a seemingly ordinary family, a mother, a father, and 2 young children. They moved in with dreams of a fresh start, unaware of the house's dark history. But something about their normalcy felt off, as if their smiles were masks, barely concealing a darkness beneath. The neighbours noticed it too, the way the Carters seemed to be playing a part in a sinister play. At dinner, the family would sit in an unsettling silence, the clinking of cutlery, the only sound breaking the tension. The children's laughter, once innocent, now carried an edge that sent shivers down spines. Old family photos revealed a history that was anything but ordinary. The eyes in those pictures seemed to follow you, watching, waiting. The Carters were not just living in the house, they were becoming a part of its haunted legacy. Helen Carter, the mother, was the heart of the family. At least that's what everyone believed. She was the picture of maternal warmth, always baking cookies, attending school plays, the kind of mother everyone wished they had. But behind her gentle facade, a subtle anxiety flickered in her eyes, a deep unease she couldn't quite shake off. The days leading up to that fateful Mother's Day were plagued by strange occurrences. Phone calls in the dead of night with no one on the other end, just the rasping sound of static. A rocking chair on the porch, swaying gently despite the stillness of the air. Her children, usually rambunctious, were unusually quiet, their eyes wide and watchful, as if they too sensed the growing unease. Helen tried to rationalize it all away, blaming stress, fatigue, anything but the creeping dread that was slowly consuming her. But the truth was, something felt terribly wrong. It felt like a storm was brewing, a storm that threatened to shatter the fragile peace of their lives. Helen found herself baking more than usual, as if the act of creating something sweet could ward off the darkness that seemed to be closing in. Her children, sensing her unease, clung to her more tightly, their usual laughter replaced by nervous whispers. The phone calls continued, each one more unsettling than the last. Helen would answer, her voice trembling, only to be met with that same eerie static. The rocking chair on the porch became a symbol of her growing fear. It would sway gently as if moved by an unseen hand, even when the air was still. Her children, once carefree, now seemed to share her dread. Their eyes, wide and watchful, mirrored the fear that Helen tried so hard to hide. Helen's nights were sleepless, her mind racing with thoughts of what could be causing these strange events. She tried to find logical explanations, but none seemed to fit. The sense of impending doom grew stronger with each passing day. It was as if the very air around them was charged with a dark energy, waiting to unleash its fury. In a desperate attempt to maintain normalcy, Helen continued her baking, her hands moving mechanically as her mind spiraled into fear. Her children watched her, their eyes filled with a mix of confusion and fear. They didn't understand what was happening, but they knew something was very wrong. The phone calls became a nightly terror, each one a reminder that something sinister was lurking just beyond their understanding. The rocking chair's gentle sway became a haunting rhythm, a constant reminder of the unseen force that seemed to be watching them. Helen's children, once so full of life, now moved through their days like shadows, their joy replaced by a pervasive sense of dread. Helen knew she had to protect her family, but she didn't know how. The fear that had taken root in her heart was growing, threatening to consume them all. As Mother's Day approached, the storm that had been brewing finally broke. The air was thick with tension, and Helen knew that whatever was coming, it would change their lives forever. The night pressed in on the nursery, a suffocating blanket of darkness. Sarah hummed a lullaby, her voice a fragile shield against the creeping dread that had taken root in her heart. The baby monitor crackled with static, the white noise punctuated by the occasional sigh of the wind outside. It felt like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. And then it did. A low, guttural growl, barely audible at first, seemed to emanate from the very walls. It was a primal sound, something ancient and monstrous, something that spoke of appetites both dark and insatiable. Sarah's blood ran cold. She clutched the crucifix around her neck, a desperate prayer forming on her lips. The monitor sputtered, the static intensifying. Then a flicker on the screen. A shadow, elongated and grotesque, slithered across the wall of the nursery. It moved with a sinuous grace, a predator stalking its prey. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, her eyes wide with terror. The growl intensified, closer now, vibrating through the floorboards. The shadow in the nursery grew larger, darker, its edges rippling with a malevolent energy. Sarah stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. She had to get to her baby, but her legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by an unseen force. The monitor shrieked, a high-pitched wail that pierced the silence like a shard of glass. The shadow in the nursery contorted, twisting into a horrifying parody of human form. It was tall and gaunt, its limbs elongated and skeletal, its face a mask of pure primal hunger. Sarah finally found her voice, a strangled cry that echoed through the empty house. She lunged for the nursery door, her heart pounding against her ribs like a drumbeat of doom. But the door wouldn't budge. It was as if something on the other side was holding it shut, something strong and evil and filled with a terrible purpose. The baby monitor went dead. Silence descended on the house, a heavy, suffocating silence that seemed to hum with menace. Sarah collapsed against the door, her body racked with sobs. She had failed. She had been too late. The only sound now was the low, guttural growl, closer than ever, a promise of horrors yet to come. Sarah's hands shook uncontrollably, her mind racing with thoughts of what might be happening to her baby. The shadow crept closer, its form becoming more defined, more menacing with each passing second. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for any means of escape, any way to save her child. The shadow loomed over the crib, its presence a dark cloud of malevolence. Sarah's movements became frantic, her desperation palpable as she fought against the invisible force holding her back. The shadow seemed to grin, a sinister, mocking expression that sent chills down her spine. Tears streamed down her face, her sobs growing louder, more desperate. The shadow's hand reached for the crib, its fingers long and claw-like, a harbinger of doom. Sarah let out one final blood-curdling scream, a sound of pure, unadulterated terror. The shadow enveloped the crib, its darkness swallowing everything in its path. Sarah collapsed to the floor, her body racked with sobs, her spirit broken. The nursery fell silent, an eerie, oppressive silence that seemed to stretch on forever. Sarah's eyes were haunted, filled with a deep, abiding sorrow that would never fade. The shadow retreated, its form dissolving into the darkness, leaving behind an air of malevolent triumph. Her sobs were hollow, echoing through the empty house, a testament to her loss. The crib stood empty, a stark reminder of the nightmare that had unfolded. Sarah's gaze was lifeless, her spirit crushed by the weight of her failure. The shadow's presence lingered, a dark stain on the fabric of reality, a reminder of the horrors that lurk in the shadows. Her spirit was broken, her heart shattered, her soul forever scarred by the night's events. The house was silent, a heavy, oppressive silence that seemed to hum with the echoes of the past. Sarah's final sobs echoed through the empty house, a haunting reminder of the nightmare that had claimed her child. The authorities, bless their souls, they came and went, chalked it up to another case of we don't know. The house, though, the house held onto the echoes. The family, they tried to move on, tried to pretend those whispers from the attic weren't real. But you can't outrun the truth that lives in the walls. See, the thing about these old houses, they got memories. They remember the joys and the sorrows, the laughter and the screams. And this house, it remembered that night. It remembered the terror in the mother's eyes, the chilling silence after the screams, the blood that stained the floorboards. They say the attic was empty, but the family, they knew better. They felt it, a presence that lingered, a coldness that clung to them like a shroud. Footsteps creaked above their heads when no one was there. Objects moved, shifted in the darkness. A child's toy, a rocking horse, started rocking on its own, a slow rhythmic creak, back and forth, back and forth. The whispers started subtly, a murmur at the edge of hearing. Then they grew louder, clearer, words forming in the darkness, words of sorrow, of anger, of a pain that refused to be silenced. The mother, she heard them most clearly, whispers that echoed her own fear, that mirrored her own guilt. She tried to tell herself it was the wind, the old house settling, but deep down she knew. She knew those whispers weren't just the wind. They were the echoes of a nightmare that refused to let go. They called in priests, paranormal investigators, anyone who might offer an answer, a solution, a way to silence the whispers. But the house, it held its secrets close. The attic remained a place of shadows and whispers, a constant reminder of the horror that had unfolded there. The family, they tried to live normal lives, but the whispers followed them. They seeped into their dreams, their waking moments, a constant chilling reminder that some things can't be explained, can't be ignored, can't be outrun. The whispers from the attic became a part of their lives, a chilling soundtrack to their existence, a constant reminder that the nightmare wasn't over, that the horror was still alive, lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim them too. They tried to escape, to leave the house behind, but the whispers followed them. Even in their new home, the whispers persisted, a relentless reminder of the past. They sought help from mediums, desperate for answers, for peace. The mediums sensed a dark presence, a lingering spirit that refused to move on. The family struggled, haunted by the past, unable to find peace. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, driving the family to the brink of despair. In a final attempt to silence the whispers, they took desperate measures. They performed an exorcism, a final confrontation with the spirits that haunted them. The house finally fell silent. the whispers silenced at last. The family found peace, able to move on from the past. But the house stood empty, its memories lingering, a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded within its walls. Shadows lingered in the empty house, echoes of the past whispering in the darkness. The house waited, a haunting presence ready to claim new occupants, to whisper its dark secrets once more. Years passed. The family moved on, or at least tried to. The house stood empty, a monument to tragedy, but the whispers, they never truly faded. Locals whispered tales of strange occurrences, of cold spots, of disembodied voices echoing in the night. Some say the mother never recovered, that the guilt and terror haunted her until her dying day. Others say the unseen guest in the attic finally found peace, its whispers fading into the silence. But the truth, as with most things, remains shrouded in mystery. The house, it still stands, a silent sentinel on a quiet street. A for sale sign hangs crookedly on the front lawn, a beacon to those brave enough or foolish enough to tempt fate. But beware, for the whispers, they say, still linger. They say the new owners, they hear them too. Soft murmurs in the dead of night, the creaking of footsteps on the attic stairs, the feeling of being watched, of never being truly alone. The unseen guest, it seems, has chosen to stay. Perhaps it's waiting, biding its time, for the next unsuspecting soul to cross its path. Or perhaps it's simply a remnant of the past, a lingering echo of the horror that unfolded within those walls. The truth, like the whispers themselves, remains elusive. A chilling reminder that some stories never truly end, that some nightmares linger long after we close our eyes. But here's the thing about nightmares. They feed on fear. They thrive in the darkness. The unseen guest, the whispers in the attic, they lose their power when we face them head on. So if you ever find yourself in that old house on a dark and stormy night and you hear the whispers, don't be afraid. Turn on the lights, climb those attic stairs, confront the darkness, because sometimes the only way to silence the whispers is to face the unseen guest head on. Years passed. The family moved on, or at least tried to. The house stood empty, a monument to tragedy. But the whispers, they never truly faded. Locals whispered tales of strange occurrences, of cold spots, of disembodied voices echoing in the night. Some say the mother never recovered, that the guilt and terror haunted her until her dying day. Others say the unseen guest in the attic finally found peace, its whispers fading into the silence. But the truth, as with most things, remains shrouded in mystery. The house, it still stands, a silent sentinel on a quiet street. A for sale sign hangs crookedly on the front lawn, a beacon to those brave enough or foolish enough to tempt fate. But beware, for the whispers, they say, still linger. They say the new owners, they hear them too. Soft murmurs in the dead of night, the creaking of footsteps on the attic stairs, the feeling of being watched, of never being truly alone. The unseen guest, it seems, has chosen to stay. Perhaps it's waiting, biding its time for the next unsuspecting soul to cross its path. Or perhaps it's simply a remnant of the past, a lingering echo of the horror that unfolded within those walls. The truth, like the whispers themselves, remains elusive. A chilling reminder that some stories never truly end, that some nightmares linger long after we close our eyes. But here's the thing about nightmares. They feed on fear. They thrive in the darkness. The unseen guest, the whispers in the attic, they lose their power when we face them head on. So, if you ever find yourself in that old house on a dark and stormy night and as we delve into the darkness, let's remember the light. The love of a mother transcends even the most chilling nightmares. May this Mother's Day be a beacon of warmth and joy, a reminder that even in the face of fear, love conquers all. Cherish the moments, hold your loved ones close, and let the warmth of a mother's love guide you through. Slowly fade out the background music, end with the text, "Happy Mother's Day, stay safe."